Verily, the clever ego, the loveless ego, that desires its own profit in the profit of the many, that is not the origin of the herd, but its going under. The clever ego is not the origin of the herd, but it's going under. The ego will dig underneath, compromise the structure of, be the demise of. The ego will be the demise of the herd. Good and evil have always been created by lovers and creators. The fire of love glows in the names of all the virtues, and the fire of wrath. Zarathustra saw many lands and many peoples. No greater power did Zarathustra find on earth than the works of the lovers. Good and evil are their names. Right. Verily, a monster is the power of this praising and censuring. Tell me who will conquer it, O brother. Tell me who will throw a yoke over the 1,000 necks of this beast. Now, he did say he wanted to destroy all values. Everything that everybody currently believes to be valuable, Nietzsche wanted to destroy it, and in that sense he was a nihilist. But he wanted to do it in the name of new values, which isn't quite the same as nihilism. But there's some pretty explicit speaking to that, isn't there? 1,000 goals have there been so far. 1,000 goals have there been so far, for there have been 1,000 peoples. So every people makes a goal for themselves. Only the yoke for the 1,000 necks is still yet lacking. The one goal is lacking. Humanity still has no goal. Every civilization, every people unto itself has its own goal. So we haven't been united yet. Who will throw the yoke over 1,000 necks? But tell me, my brothers, if humanity still lacks a goal, is humanity itself not still lacking too? Thus spoke Zarathustra. Is that a chicken and the egg problem? Once it's no longer lacking at all, then it has no goal to move towards, would it? So once either it's going to continue to lack and strive for the goal, or it's going to not strive because it will not lack. The conundrum Aristotle faced with his unmovable mover. Okay, on love of the neighbor. So we were on friend before. You crowd round your neighbor and have fine words for it. Right? That's a good line right there. That's what people do. They crowd round their neighbors and they have fine words for it. They call it socialize, a party, clubbing. You crowd round your neighbor and have fine words for it, but I say unto you, your love of the neighbor is your bad love of yourself. You flee to your neighbor from yourself and would like to make a virtue out of that. But I see through your selflessness. And he puts selflessness in scare quotes, and this is translated from the German, but that's the idea of a selfless person as an empty shell who has nothing inside him. Selfless. There is no self. There's nobody there. Sort of the idea that Ayn Rand gave Peter Keating in The Fountainhead. Always chasing the opinion and the approval of others. I believe it was Jewel, the singer, pop artist, who said that she hates being alone because when she's alone the demons come out. She much prefers to have company. The you is older than the I. The you has been pronounced holy, but not yet the I. So man crowds towards his neighbor. This was spoken about, wasn't it, in Ayn Rand's book, her novelette, Anthem. The word I was abolished in that society. You could only say we, and when you were thinking about your own thoughts, you describe yourself as we by your number. We, Liberty 2638527, love Liberty 26, whatever. But that Anthem talks to this idea that You has been pronounced holy, but the I has not. Now, in Galt's speech, John Galt says, what makes a piece of cake of value if it's in your neighbor's stomach, but not if it's in yours? Because you're supposed to give everything away to your last penny and go follow Christ or whatever. Do I recommend love of the neighbor to you? Sooner I should even recommend flight from the neighbor and love of the farthest. Higher than love of the neighbor is love of the farthest and the future. Higher yet than the love of human beings, I esteem the love of things and ghosts. He esteems the love of ghosts above the love of human beings. This ghost that runs after you, my brother, is more beautiful than you. Why do you not give him your flesh and your bones? But you are afraid and run to your neighbor, chasing after the human, and he wants a body to be into. Give him your flesh and your bones. The ghost who chases you, the non-existent, floating, perfect, idyllic, heavenly entity. You cannot endure yourself, and do not love yourself enough. Now you want to seduce your neighbor to love, and then gild yourselves with this error. Do a bunch of, you made the mistake, now you want your neighbor to make the mistake, and then you're both going to gild yourself, cover yourself in gold, made out of this error. Would that you could not endure all sorts of neighbors, and their neighbors. Then you would have to create your friend and his overflowing heart out of yourselves. If you couldn't endure your neighbor, then you'd have to create your friend out of yourself. I don't know. What the hell does that mean? You invite a witness when you want to speak well of yourselves, and when you have seduced him to think well of you, then you think well of yourselves. That's pretty good. You invite a witness to speak when you want to speak well of yourself, right? You don't say, I'm good, because that would be boastful and braggartly and proud, and so you say, you know, ask Joe, have I ever let Joe down? I always help Joe out, you know? So you always get a witness to speak well of you. You're not going to speak well of yourself. And then, when you have seduced him to think well of you, then you think well of yourselves. Not only, that reminds me of Ellsworth Toohey's line in The Fountainhead when he said, one person is selfless, and so they get their desires from the next person, but that person's selfless too. And he said, where does it stop, Howard? Do you know where it stops? It's just one selfless person after another all the way around the world. Something like that. Not only are they liars who speak when they know better, but even more, those who speak when they know nothing. And thus you speak of yourselves to others, and deceive the neighbor with yourselves. Speak about yourself to other people, and deceive the neighbor wants to be deceived too. He's in on the plot. He's in on the mental evasion. Thus speaks the fool. Association with other people corrupts one's character, especially if one has none. That's what a fool says. To associate with other people corrupts your character, especially if you don't have a character. And it seems like Nietzsche is saying that you do become corrupt by association with others. Is he the fool? I don't know, maybe not. I mean, he's derogating that position. One man goes to his neighbor because he seeks himself, another because he would lose himself. Right? I haven't found myself, you say at a cocktail party to all your friends. You don't know who you are. And another because he doesn't want to think about himself in his life, runs to his neighbor. Your bad love of yourself turns your solitude into a prison. There's a line in a country song that freedom was his prison. He was free, and that was his prison. To wander free in his prison, or something like that. It is those farther away who must pay for your love of your neighbor, and even if 5 of you are together, there is always a 6th who must die.